All right, welcome back everybody to another um, live stream of me coding this retro 2D space shooter I'm calling Space Blast right now. This is going to be a template for which you guys that are trying to code your own games can watch and download my full project here. The whole folder, you'll get all my code, you'll get all my sprites, you'll get all my sounds that I use in the game. It'll be updated every time I stream, so you can go get the most current, up-to-date project file that you can use in either GameMaker or GameMaker 2. And you can adapt it, you can change it, you can play with the variables such as the speed, such as the firing, such as change the sounds to whatever you want. And we are not going to be making a complete game. So if we play my game as I last left off yesterday, we see where we're at, guys. Again, we're making a really basic space shooter where you can move kind of like a Galaga or a Galaxian type retro space shooter. I've never made one exactly like this, right? But we see that we can, blast these guys. And if you guys have any questions, I died there. I ran into a ship.
What?
So we definitely need to have a game over, first of all. We also need to have explosions, so you know when you die,
Okay.
right? And we need to create a game over, and that's what we're going to work on tonight. And we might work on a power-up or something like that could allow you to rapid fire. To give you guys kind of an example of how a power-up could work. And at some point, we might create like a second enemy type that'll actually shoot back at you rather than just, coming down like this. But the score is working. You are getting a proper score. Basically, the faster an enemy is moving, the more points it is worth. And the enemies tend to move faster the longer you've been playing as well. So that's all in the code. Definitely check out my second video if you want to see how the enemy code is working and how they're programmed right now. And by all means, if you guys want to work on this yourself, if you have GameMaker or GameMaker 2, download the project file, play with it yourself, play with the code. Hopefully you'll learn something by playing with the code that I've created and be able to make this game your own. Be able to make something yourself that you can tell, your friends and family that, hey, look what I did. You're more than welcome to do that. But I hope you're not just, showing them the game as it is and saying, hey, I made this. Hopefully you're making this game your own and adding quite a bit to it, etc. So let's go ahead and do something, guys. If we look at the space shooter right now, we see that, if I crash into an enemy, I die and I lose a ship. We don't have any explosions or anything yet. We see that if I shoot an enemy, the enemy disappears. But we also have a problem. Our bullet is going right through the enemy, killing the enemy, but our bullet needs to disappear as well. So let's go ahead and do that first thing, because that's a really easy thing to do. So all we're going to do, guys, is we're going to come over here into our player shot right here. So we're coming into our player shot object, which is our bullet, right? And we simply need to add a collision in here, and the collision is going to be with a green enemy, the only enemy we've created to this point. So then we're going to go ahead and go back to the control panel here. We're going to drag in our code so we can put in code. And here, this is simply going to be an instance destroy, right? We're going to have it destroy itself. And yes, for anybody wondering, yes, I could be doing the same code with the with up here where you can have it destroy itself. I forget what, because I don't use these objects here. But yeah, you could be using the right here. I believe this is it. So I could be dragging this in, destroy instance self instead, right? Instead of my code. But I like doing everything by code, and I think it's probably a good habit for you guys to get into if you're using GameMaker, to do everything by code and not be using these object, these things here. That's just my recommendation. I just like doing everything in code myself. But now, if we play the game here, we should see that the bullet will go away as well when it hits an enemy. Yep, now our bullet is disappearing. Okay. So it's working really well now. It actually looks a lot better that the bullet is disappearing. Hey, how you doing, Hill? All right. So one thing we want to work on now, guys, is we want to work on creating some kind of a cool explosion. And yes, I could go get explosions out there that would probably maybe look better, but I want to try creating an explosion myself. If you guys are downloading the project file here, you're welcome to try to create your own explosions, or implement or use any explosions you might find online yourself. But we're going to go ahead and create an explosion here ourselves, right? Explode. And for this, guys, we're going to go ahead and create two different explosions. We're going to create a main explosion, right? And this one's going to be bigger. And then we're going to create a small explosion that'll be smaller. And it'll be like little fireballs that launch off of it. So we're going to go ahead and start with something like this, 128 by 128. And we're going to blow this up. And for an explosion, we definitely want it to be like red. And for this, guys, we're just going to go ahead and create. I'm not going to work crazy hard on this. I'm simply going to work on creating a big little fireball. I'm going to use different colors here. And my art is definitely not something to, to write home about. But I want to go ahead and show you guys, even if you're not an artist, right? You can create some pretty cool special effects just from something like this. So there we have one effect right there, guys. Let's go ahead. This looks a little bit weird down here. So let's go ahead and take an eraser here and erase that little part right there, right? All right, so we're going to go ahead and accept that. Then what we're going to do here, guys, is we're going to go ahead and add another one. But this is going to be like our, big moment of like the big explosion right here. So we want to go ahead and get something coming up to that point. We don't just want it starting like that, right? And if we want to go ahead and look at it for reference, we can kind of see, okay, well, let's go ahead here now and let's create, kind of some sparks of like maybe that explosion starting out. Something not quite so vibrant and big, but we kind of want the size there, right? So if we show the preview here now, we want to slow this down so we can actually see what's going on. Maybe to 5? Yeah. So see, you can kind of see it starting out there, and then it comes into that point. We probably want another one somewhere between this and this. So let's go ahead and create another empty thing, and we can move it by having it selected and then moving it left, right? So now we want to come in here and we want to create something between what we have here and then this, right? So let's come in here. Let's see what we got again. Okay. So let's go ahead and take some different colors again. And this time we're just going to kind of make something between what we have, those dots there at the start, but not something quite so crazy as we had in the second one. Something building up. Basically, I don't like that. There we go. Right? Okay. So as you can see there, we're starting to get what looks like a little bit of an explosion. Right? So let's come in here and create another one right here. And we're going to start winding. We're probably going to have like a couple of big ones, so it kind of looks like boom, right? So we're going to come in here. We're going to make this shaped a little bit different than what we had there, though. But probably not much bigger than what we had. We're just going to have a little bit more form to it, maybe. And again, I'm just drawing this, guys, with my mouse, right? I'm not looking too crazy. You don't actually, I'm just trying to show you guys that you can create a game. You don't have to go out and spend $200 or $300 on some big fancy drawing tablet, to create a game. You could definitely create a game without doing all that, right? Without spending a bunch of money. You don't have to spend a lot of money on a game editor. You can use Unity for free. You can use GameMaker. You guys can get copies of GameMaker, I know, for like $12. I spent $100 on GameMaker back when I bought it, right? But we're going to go ahead and clip something like that. And let's go ahead and give this some different colors as well, because we have just one color there. And this is going to be flicking by really quick, so nobody's going to really see that, hey, you're just doodling this. They're just going to see an effect of hopefully what looks like an explosion, right? And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to start winding this down. So that's like our big explosion impact there, right? So now we're going to go ahead and start winding this down a little bit. That's good. And with this one, guys, when we're winding it down, we probably want to have like some maybe particles and stuff like that flying off of the, flying off into space, right? So we're going to go ahead and take that. That's pretty well centered, but it could go a little bit more like that, right? And now we just want to go ahead and take some little embers, right? And we want to have these embers like flying off, kind of random embers. And in the next one, we'll try to make these dots look like they're flying out even further. So we're going to go ahead and accept that. And see, if we speed this up now a little bit more, because we have more images, so we can speed it up, you can see that that looks a little bit like an explosion, right? We'll see how it looks in the game. You really don't, just because it looks good here doesn't mean it's going to look good in the game. But at least we have a starting point. At least we have, oops, I don't want anything that significant there. There we go. So we kind of want to wind down the image in the middle here a little bit, right? Go ahead and get a few darker colors in here too, though, right? And again, I'm really quickly making this, guys. I'm not really trying that hard. I am not an artist. I realize I'm not an artist, and you guys don't have to be an artist either. So see, I'm kind of spreading these little embers out a little bit. Boom. And you can see that that's starting to look, hopefully that looks like an explosion right there. Again, we're not going to see how good it's actually going to look until we see it in the game, right? And now what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and take, and to make these even fainter, you can take the opacity here down a little bit, right? And we're going to leave nothing here except maybe a few really dim bulbs in there, right? Boom. So hopefully, does that look like an explosion to anybody? And again, I am not an artist, guys. Welcome, everybody. We got 6 people here. Thanks so much for being here, guys. Hopefully, you guys are enjoying the stream or learning something. Sure. And we're going to go ahead and center this, right? And what we want to do now, guys, is we have what, 7 images starting at 0, right? That is our explosion. So when we create, again, anytime we create a sprite in GameMaker or GameMaker 2, remember, you can't do anything with just sprite images themselves. They have to be part of an object. So here we're going to go ahead and we're going to make object, right? We're going to make an object explode. Now our object explode is going to start with our explode main, the thing we just drew, right? We want to give this a depth of, say, minus 120, because I think our player and our green, yeah, minus 90, and our player is minus 100, I think. Yeah, so we definitely want to have this be minus 120. So if you guys ever have any questions in GameMaker or GameMaker 2, and you want to know about depth, right? You can't remember, like, hey, what do I set my depth at? So you can always come in here and you can look for the illustrations in GameMaker. And you can see that in GameMaker, they show you that like a depth of 1,000 is going to be behind a depth of 0, and the depth of minus 1,000 is going to be in front of the depth of 0. So the lower the depth, the closer it's going to look like it is to you. So this is why we want our depth lower than our player and our green enemy, because we want that explosion, that's going to be going over the enemy, perhaps. We want that showing up and being more visible than the enemy, right? So we're going to have some code here in this explosion, and we're going to go ahead and start with a create event here, guys. Again, we're going to drag in some code here. And the first thing we want to do is we want to set that image speed. Getting the image speed is going to be pretty important. Now, if we come back to our game here, guys, we see that I've set my speed here at 60, right? In my room. So my speed is 60 frames per second. But when you look at a sprite, the sprite editor is always going to show your speed here is always going to be based on a 30 frame per second speed. So if you're wanting it to go and look exactly like that, right, you're going to want to double this speed right here, and you're going to want to set that as your image speed. So it's going to be 0.20, right? And we can adjust this if we want to later on, right? So this is in our create event, right? Now the next thing we want here is we want here, you can go to other, and you can basically say when the animation ends. That means when it gets to the last frame that we made, we can basically have this destroy itself, right? So animation end is a really good event to happen if you want the object to destroy itself once it reaches the last frame, right? So we're going to go ahead and try that now. Now what we're going to do is we may end up making this thing look better with some explode small particles that'll end up flying off this main explosion in random directions. And that's probably what we're going to do to make it look even better. But let's go ahead and see what it looks like right now as it is. Another thing here, guys, when we do the explosion, right, what I want to do is I want to have these explosions looking a little bit different, not being exactly the same. So what I want to do is I want to change the image angle every time to a random angle. And to do that, I just go 359.9. That's pretty much as random as you're going to get. And we're going to do this every step. And so that would be something in the step event, not an alarm, but a step event. We're going to choose the step event. Again, we're just going to drag in more code. Oops. Delete that. We're going to drag in the code. And we're going to copy and paste that same line of code that we had from the create event. And what this is going to do is every frame here, right, of our explosion, it's basically going to take that image and it's going to flip it at a random angle. So when you're doing something like that, you definitely want to make sure that all your images are like in the middle. So this one's kind of not in the middle. We could basically probably take this part right here and move this down a little bit. GameMaker makes this so easy. So this right here is probably a little bit too high as well. Let's go ahead and move that kind of down into the middle. And then same thing here. That one's pretty close, but we'll go ahead and move this one down just a little bit as well, right? So now let's go ahead and see what this looks like to do this. Let's go ahead. We have an object explode. So now all we need to do is, let's just say you shoot it with, we're just going to put this in here for right now. So we're going to go ahead and say, if your shot hits the green player, we're going to instance create object. We need to create it the same XY position of our enemy. That's fine. And then we're going to go object explode, right? We'll see what this looks like down in the game. It looks good in the creator, but it may not look that good once you get it in the game and look at it. You might say, oh man, it doesn't look that great, but we'll see. So, another thing I can tell you guys is I have 6 games on Steam, and the more you do this kind of stuff, the better you're going to get. And see, that's exactly what I'm talking about. That doesn't look that good, right? It looks better in the editor than it looks here. So probably what we need is we probably need some gray in there as well. I think we kind of need some like gray matter here because it just looks like a big red spiral. Even though we are randomizing it and it's going quick or whatever, it just doesn't look like a good explosion, right? This is what I'm talking about. Just because a sprite might look good here, you know, right there, doesn't mean it's going to look really good in the game. So I think what we're going to do here, guys, is we're going to go ahead, anytime I have a base start for an explosion that I think looks all right or whatever, before I potentially mess it up by adding something to it, one thing I like to do is I like to duplicate it and just go ahead and put explode copy, right? So we're just doing that. We're creating a copy of what we have right now before we go in and mess this up, potentially, right? So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and add probably a little bit more. We want to go with opacity again. Oh, it wasn't showing up. We probably want to add some more like dark colors in here, even at the starting image, right? And then we probably want to take some like gray as well, right? We probably want to add some like gray smoke coming in right from the start as well. And maybe put a lot of it like right here in the middle, and it'll go out as we go through our images. So let's go ahead, and this is exactly why I made a copy of what I had before, just in case I really mess it up. I don't want to have to go back and try to erase all this gray that I'm putting in, because that would be long and tedious. It's a lot easier just try to redo it based on what it looks like, and you know, kind of go with that. So we're just trying to come in here. Let's go ahead and get a little bit more of this darker color as well, and maybe really fill this in as we're starting the explosion. And I promise you guys, just like I'm doing now, I'm learning right now art. You guys as well will learn and get better with this stuff as you do it more. And if you're already pretty good at art, especially on computers, you're probably going to be a lot more natural pro than I am. Like right here, we're definitely going to want to go ahead and maybe put in some really dark colors in here. Again, we're just going to scribble this in. I'm not looking to spend all day creating an explosion, right? If I have to, I can go out and get, you know, somebody else that's probably already done this even better, right? But we want to go ahead and create some of this dust as well, some of this gray matter, because when you see an explosion, even in space, right, you're probably going to see like some gray matter. And I probably want to alter this up so it doesn't look like it's just a big circle, right? I probably want to maybe change up some of the colors as well. Okay, let's get a darker gray. Yeah. Maybe even go a bigger, maybe even go like a bigger, boom, bigger pen here, right? And then maybe even here, put in a little bit lighter ones as well. Maybe even right here, we'll put in a couple of these. Okay. Make a couple of them a little bit bigger. I just wish I was better at art, but I guarantee you the more you do this kind of stuff, guys, the better you're going to get at it. See what it looks like now. Okay, we still got to do 4 more images here, guys. And we're going to try to make some of these, like, some of this dust and stuff like that looks like it's exploding out as well, kind of like we did earlier. Maybe make some of the lighter colors, a lot of lighter colors coming out, and then go darker with some of these more inner ones here. And this might be all our explosion needs to look better, or it might make it look worse. I mean, I don't really know, guys. We're going to go ahead and go even a little bit darker gray here. And we're going to put in some dark gray down here in the middle. And then we're going to kind of mix this up as well. We're going to put in a few dark splotches right here. We're going to put in a little bit lighter stuff down here a little bit, right? And then, I mean, we're just really trying to make our game look as good as we can. And then we're going to try to make some lighter clouds be out here. This may look really dumb when we're done. I have no idea, guys. I've never really tried to create an explosion like this myself. Like for Rock and Roll, for example, or whatever, I got an explosion script from Yo-Yo Games that was free. I used a free explosion script that was basically an asset. So yeah, you guys can call me an asset flipper if you want. It's fine. All right. And we're going to create a few more clouds here. You don't want everyone probably looking just like a dot, but remember, this is going to go by so quick, guys, that people aren't going to be able to analyze exactly what your game is looking like, right? Oops. Grab the darker one here. Go. And now maybe the darker clouds are starting to come out here a little bit for our last image. I wish I was good at art, guys. See, I don't know what this is going to look like in the game. We're going to go ahead and try it again and see if it looks any better. Okay, let's try. It looks better, but maybe it needs to go faster. Hmm. Let's try changing the let's try changing the how fast it blows up. So let's try going 0.30 and speed it up by basically 50%. That actually doesn't look too bad. Now we just need some sound effects to go with it. I think honestly, guys, we're going to go ahead and delete this now. I'm pretty happy with the copy that we have, but I'm going to go ahead and duplicate what I have now. And again, I'm going to call this explode copy, right? So now we have kind of the smoke that I've implemented copy, because I have another idea that might help this look a little bit better. And one thing I'm kind of thinking is if we come in here to like the second line or whatever, what if we add some yellow in here and we go thin and we kind of go, oops, let's go ahead and make this like, no, let's go ahead and start with a lower opacity here. And we kind of add some line effects in here with yellow. And then maybe even a little bit of like orange, right? As well. This might help it look better. And then we come in here to the next one, and we're going to go ahead and take this opacity up to about 200, a little over 200. And we're going to go ahead and take our yellow again, and we're going to make some more vibrant lines and a little bit more vibrant orange as well. Oops. And we're going to see if this doesn't help add more effect. Into the game. And then again here, on this one, we're going to go ahead and go up more. We're going to go ahead and maybe make some curves here. And then add maybe some and maybe even here on the yellow ones, we're going to go ahead and add like some double lines here, right? What do you guys think? Do you guys think this will help make it look better or worse? Now we're going to go ahead and start taking this opacity down a little bit more. We're still going to have these lines, but we're going to start fading them out a little bit. And we'll take this one here. I mean, it's really not the more stuff you add, the better it's going to look. That's not kind of how it works, but come down a little bit more, get our yellow again. More. Let's see what that looks like, guys. And that's why I copied the thing I had before in case this makes it look really bad or it looks cheesy or whatever. We can go back and start over again with the lines and maybe do something different with the lines or whatever. Okay. That kind of looks better, doesn't it? So another thing I think we can make this, that can make it look a little bit better as well, guys, is when we go into the create event here, right? We're going to image X scale. So we're going to make the random range. We're going to make the scale of the explosion be anywhere from like 0.7, 1.2. So, and then we're going to do the same thing with the Y scale. So they could be a little bit oddly shaped. I don't want to make them exactly the same number. So if I did want to make these, the image Y scale and the image X scale be, you know, if I always wanted the same shape exactly, maybe just smaller or whatever, I could just make a variable called size or something like that and have that size be set to this random range. But in this instance, I think I want to go ahead and have it so maybe sometimes the explosion looks a little bit odd shaped. This may actually help even more by giving it the random size as well. And we could even, I was going to say we could even do the size every step, but I don't think that would really make it look better. Yeah, see how the size kind of makes a difference though, as well? That actually doesn't look like a bad explosion. I think we did a pretty good job. Now, if we wanted to add even more effect on the explosion, we could make small little fireballs, right? And so what we could do here and here is what I'm talking about here is we could go ahead and we could make a sprite explode small, right? And this one you definitely want to be smaller, so we're going to go ahead and have this one be like a 32 by 32, right? This is just going to be little chunks of fire that's going to be going off, right? And so for this one, we're just going to come in here and we're just going to maybe take a couple of colors. Again, I'm not trying to be amazing with my art here, guys. This is just kind of maybe even a little yellow in here, right? But we need to go ahead and maybe make some. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and go there. And all we're going to do here, guys, we're going to have this come off, but we're going to go ahead and create another image here, and we're going to make this smaller. So this fireball isn't going to be like exploding up like the explosion. We're just going to have this be like a big fall, and it's going to slowly disintegrate as it goes. So in fact, probably what we'll do is we're just going to take a copy of this, right? And we're going to make, well, we're going to go ahead and come into this. And we're going to go ahead and just kind of erase part of this fireball. We're probably going to erase all the yellow that we have in here and maybe some of the brighter reds as well. And we're going to erase part of the fireball here. Not too much right now, right? Because we still want part of it to exist. And again, we're going to flip this every time as well, like we did with the last one. And we're going to come in here and we're going to go down in the opacity just a little bit. And we're going to recreate maybe some yellow in different parts and maybe some brighter orange in different parts as well. And then we're going to accept that. And this one actually looks a little bit bigger than that. But we're going to go ahead and go CV. And we're going to come in here again. And we're going to take our eraser. We're going to erase the yellow. And this may not work either, guys. This is the first time I've ever tried to create an explosion. But really what we're trying to do is we're trying to create different elements here to make the explosion look, you know, kind of better. What we want it as realistic, not as realistic, but as impactful of an explosion as we can get, right? So it definitely looks like it's starting to dissipate there. Control C, Control V. And remember, we're going to change the angle of these every single time as well. So we're going to come in here. We're going to, again, we're going to erase all this yellow so we can put it in different spots. We're going to erase a little bit more, especially like the bright orange. Maybe put that in different spots as well. But we want this thing to start getting smaller as well. We probably want to like take our eraser around the outside of it. And then we're going to come down on the opacity a little bit more. And we're going to create just a few. And maybe a few brighter spots here in the middle. Bam. And we can kind of see here that this isn't... We probably need to move this whole thing down a little bit to get it centered. And how about anything else? Yeah, we could probably go centered here. Probably go down like that. That's pretty well centered. Okay. And then we're just going to keep copying and pasting this, guys. until we come down to like nothing, right? So again, we're going to move our eraser here. We're going to erase the yellow. We're going to erase a little bit more here with it. And we're going to come down just a little bit more on that. And we're going to create some more yellow here, like that. Bam. And you can see it's starting to disintegrate. Control C, Control V. Maybe one or two more here. Probably all we need. Right? So here, we probably want to slow this down a little bit so it isn't disintegrating so quick. So maybe 7. That looks about good. So that's going to say be about 0.15 on the image speed on this. We're going to center that again. And we're going to make this its own object as well. Object, explode, small. You could call this explode ball. You could call this whatever you wanted, right? And from here, when the explosion happens, right, guys, first thing we want to do is we want to get that speed in there that we talked about. We're going to come in here, and we're going to set the image speed on this explode small. Image speed to about 0.15. And then again, we want the animation end, which is under other. And basically when this happens, we're going to have it destroy itself. Okay. If you guys have any questions or anything like that, be sure and put it in the chat. Okay. So with this now, guys, oh yeah, we're going to create that step event as well. And it's really going to be the same thing as a step event for our main explode. It's going to change that image angle every single time, right? And we want to do that in the create event as well, right? And another thing for the create event here, in the create event of the explode, we have the image scale. We want to do the same thing here with maybe even a little bit bigger variant, right? So let's go ahead for this one. Let's go 0.5. We could have these be really small. It's already a lot smaller. We're going to go ahead and go 1.5 to 1.5, a greater variance on the size of the fireball here, right? And then what we want to do here is when we explode in the create event, right? We want to create a random number of these, right? So we're just going to go ahead and say, where was my for loop? I don't do a lot of for loops right there. So we're going to go ahead and use a for loop here, right? And let me paste that in here. And what we want to do is we want to go ahead and create a random number, r equal I random. We want this to be an I random number. We want it to be a whole number. And we want this to be anywhere from, say, 2 to 5, right? I equal I random. Oh, I random range. Right? Anywhere from, that way it's going to pick 2, 3, or 4, 2, 3, 4, or 5, right? And what this is going to do is we're going to say from I equals 0, if I is less than r, which we assign to this random range from 2 to 5, then we're going to increase that. And then right here, we're basically going to say, we don't need random ranges on where we create this. That was random ranges for creating the X and Y of the object, the star in the situation. We're just going to go X comma Y, right? And we're going to call this the explode small that we had. Object explode small, right? And then what we want to do with that, when we create anywhere from 2 to 5 of these explode smalls in here, in the create event of the explode small, we also want to go ahead and send these off in a random direction and a random speed. So we're basically going to go ahead and say direction equal that random 359, right? And the speed is probably going to be a little bit different. The speed's probably going to be random range Anywhere probably from like 1, 1.5, something like that. Right? Let's see how that looks with it creating these fireballs now in the explosion. We also want to go ahead and make sure these fireballs are seen over the explosion. So our explosion is at a 120, negative 120. We're going to make these at minus 150. How about that? Now let's see what it looks like now. I didn't even see them. It does create kind of an effect, though. I can barely see the effect. Probably what we need to do is we probably need to give these a higher speed. So in the create event here, instead of like 1 to 1.5, let's go ahead and go 3 to 5. Let's see if that makes a difference. And playing with these numbers and stuff like that in these objects and stuff like that can definitely be a lot of fun and rewarding when you're doing this kind of stuff. See that? Now we actually have enough of a speed where you can see the fireballs shooting out into space. So it does create more of an effect. And we could even go a step further. We could create other things that the explosion sends off as well. So like we could create like parts of the ship that look green or whatever, right? That does look pretty cool though. Yeah, even having like green parts of the ship or whatever would look really fucking cool. And we're going to go to Google and we're going to go to a website called Free Sound. Right there, right? Make sure you spell it right. Even though I spelled it wrong, it still came up, right? So we're going to come in here. See, I'm already signed in. I have a few sounds that I've made already here. But we're going to go ahead, instead of trying to go through a 100 weird sounds on VFXR, one thing I like to do is I like to come to Free Sound and see if anybody else has come up with a great explosion sound. And if so, maybe I'll use that. Way too long. We need a lot quicker sound. That I don't like at all. Right, we're going to come in here, and you have to be signed in to Freesound to download any of these. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to save this, right? No, I don't want that. I just want to download it. Okay, we got it downloaded here, right? Oops. So we're going to come in here. We're going to drag it off, right? And we're going to change this up a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to change it up, and we're also going to make a few different variations of the sound so that every time you shoot an enemy ship, it doesn't have the exact same sound of an explosion. We want to alter that just a little bit. We always sped that up almost like 2.5 times. It's a good explosion sound, no, for sure. We're going to go ahead and go with that. We're going to speed that up. And then let me listen to it. Okay. Let's go ahead and export that. You want to export your sounds for GameMaker, GameMaker 2 as a wave, not an MP3. GameMaker works a lot better with waves. So we're going to go ahead and call this Explode 1. We're going to save that. And then all we're going to do here, guys, is we're going to come in here. We're going to highlight this. We're going to change the pitch a little bit. And then maybe also change like the tempo a little bit. Right? And then with that, maybe even amplify this one a little bit. Right? And then we're going to save that as Explode 2. Okay. So now every time we have an explosion go on, we want to go ahead and do that sound, right? So for that, sound is really easy in GameMaker as well. Audio, play, sound, sound. We're going to go ahead and say sound explode 1 here, comma 5, comma 0, right? But what we're going to do is 1.7, right? And see if that ever sounds weird. If it does, you probably just want to take your variables so they're not such a wide variance, right? See there, now you really got a big variance on what they sound like. And you would want that. Some of them are kind of long and deep. Oh, we just died. So with that, guys, I think what we're going to do is I think we're going to go 0.3 on this, and I think we're going to go back to like 1.3 here, and we're going to save the deeper explosion. We're going to use maybe the sound 2 or sound 3 or something like that for the explosion of our ship, right? But we're going to save like a deeper sound, or maybe like for our sound, we're going to use like explode sound 2 and make this range a little bit deeper for like when our ship is blown up. So let's go ahead and do the same kind of explode here with our ship, right? So we're going to come in here, guys, and we're going to come into our player, and we're going to say, well, what happens if we hit an enemy, right? Well, we kind of want to do the same thing here as when the enemy was shot with our ship, right? So for this, we're just going to come in here, and we're going to do an instance explode. But before we actually do that, guys, let's go ahead and let's make this object explode. Let's duplicate that. And let's make this one be object ship explode, right? Or object player explode. That way we can change different things about it, right? So we're going to come in here, guys, and we're going to instance create. Player explode. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our explode, we're going to take our player explode, and we're going to alter things just a little bit here, right? So in here, where we were creating explode small pieces here, what we're going to do here with the player, right, the sprite player, we're going to come in here, guys, and we're going to, watch this, we're going to create a sprite, and we're going to call this sprite player chunks, right? And for this chunk, we're going to come in here. This one's going to be, should be big enough. And we're going to come in here, guys. We're going to come into our player here. And we're going to come into this image right here, right? And we are going to spray this little image right here. But what I want to do is I want to just get, oops. No, we don't want that. Let's just take a chunk right here. Spraying in this editor is a little bit weird. I've used it before. But we're going to go ahead and Control C. And we're going to, we don't want to save that or anything like that. No. But what we want to do is we want to come into our player chunks. We have to completely edit out of this, right? And we're going to edit. And we're going to place and center. There we go. Now we got a chunk there from our player ship. And we're going to come in here again. We're going to get out of that. We're going to come into our player ship here again. We're going to go into our main one. And again, we're going to go ahead and take a chunk of our player ship. And what we're going to do is we're going to create different objects of these guys and have them going different directions, right? So we're going to go ahead and back out of that. We're going to come in here. Oops, that's not the right one. Edit. Highlight that one. Control V, place in center. Oops. What happened? That's the same one. Oh, I forgot. I probably forgot to hit Control C or something. I don't know. Yeah, I probably didn't. Copy it. Control C. There we go. Control C. And then maybe one more. And we could do the same thing with the enemies and have chunks of it fly off as well, right? So for this one, we're just going to go ahead and take a chunk right out of the middle here. Control C. Back out of that. Back out of that. There we go. So we got 4 different chunks there from our ship, right? We're going to come back in here, guys, with our... We made an object for the player chunks, right? So when our ship dies, where is our player? We don't need the sprite for the player anymore. Object player explode right here, right? And in the object player, we did have it running into an enemy, right? So we're creating the instance player explode. So in the player explode here, where we're creating here the small pieces here for the fire, we're going to do that as well. We're going to create the fire here, except maybe we'll have like maybe a few more little fireballs running off, right? But also we want to kind of copy this code here. And we'll even put this before our fireballs. It's all going to happen in the create event, so it's all going to happen at the same time. But here, we want to go ahead and we don't even need this, actually. What we need here is we need to have we're just going to call it PC1 equal instance create x comma y comma, oops, we need the open bracket there, x comma 1 comma object player chunks. Okay. We'll see. And then we're going to create all 4 of these. There's definitely easier ways you could do this, guys. You could do this in a loop instead of doing this way. But here, we're just going to go ahead and do this way so we can handle all 4 chunks and be done with it. And we're going to say with PC1, image index equal 0. Because what we want is we want to have all 4 different chunks being different. That's why we're doing this separately with each one, right? With PC3, image index equal 2. And bam, with PC4, image index equal 3. So now we're creating the player chunks as well. And we want the explosion here to maybe be a little bit bigger. So instead of point, we're going to go ahead and go 0.9 to 1.5 maybe. If you die, and it's going to create all 4 of these chunks. Now in this situation here on the player chunks, we definitely want to, in the create event, we want to come in here and we want to make sure the image speed is 0. And then again, we're just going to go ahead and go direction equal because your player's kind of, we're going to go ahead and again, we're just going to make this random, 359.9, and speed. What was the speed of our object explode balls again? Speed is 3 to 5. Maybe we'll make this random range. We'll make this like 2, 4.
Yeah.
And again, these things here are not, they're going to stay. So every step, guys, we probably want to maybe turn. So every piece kind of looks like it's rotating a little bit, right? So we're going to basically come in here and we're going to go image angle plus equals. Well, before we do that, let's go back into the create event. And let's make a spin variable. Spin equal random range. It could either spin backwards or, but we want it to spin pretty slow. 0.05, comma, 0.05, right? Anywhere between that, and it could be negative or forward, right? So here in the step event for that, we're going to say plus equal spin. And then we just want to basically say, hey, as well, image alpha minus equal 0.002. If image alpha less than 0.05, then instance destroy. We may have to change these a little bit. Also here, guys, in the green enemy, when we die to a Control C, we die to a shot, we're also going to have it die to, we're going to have it explode when you hit the player as well. So both the green enemy and you will explode. Okay. Hey, honeybee, Sarah, how you doing? All right, boom. Look at that. How come we have so many pieces flying there? Okay, we have 4 pieces there. The spin needs to be a little bit higher, right? And it probably needs to dissolve a little bit quicker on the player chunks. Oops. So we're going to make the spin be a random range of 0.5. Actually, we're going to have this be like 0.4 to 0.7, right? And we're going to have that be negative. And then we're just going to say, hey, if random 100 greater than 50, then spin actually, we're going to have this be 0.4 to 0.7. Spin equal 0 minus spin. So that would make it a negative number. Or there is, I think you could use, let's go ahead and go equal random range. Let's make it be negative 0.7. Let's do this right. Negative 0.7 is a smaller number, and then this is 0.4, comma, negative 0.4, right? And instead of doing that, we're going to make this be the ABS of spin. So what ABS does, guys, is ABS is a command that basically makes any negative number a positive number. So basically what we're saying here is we're going to start off spin as a negative number between negative 0.7 and negative 0.4. And if a 50-50 chance comes up, it's going to spin the other way. It's going to make it spin be positive. So let's also go ahead and go into the step event of our player chunks here. And let's make this fade out a little bit quicker, like 0.05. Let's see what that looks like. Ben Maluko, how you doing? I guess GameMaker might not play the sound of me. Yeah, I read that already. See how they all went that direction now? And so we lost all our ships. So we don't have a game over yet, right? So we definitely need to have a game over and restart option. I'm so busy testing out my player explosion, I'm dying really quick. I like that. I like that effect. But again, they're not spinning. Why is our parts not spinning? Image angle plus equals spin. What happens if we take the point out of that and we make it like 10 times bigger? I wouldn't think the spin would have to be that big, but... Okay. But playing around with this, guys, is how you're going to make it look good. There we go. Now they're spinning. See how the chunks are spinning now? That looks really cool. Okay. So what we're going to do here, guys, is we're going to quickly come in here and we're going to make a big... We're going to go ahead and make a big game over object. And for this one, we're going to have this be 1200 by 700. And for this one, we're going to come in and edit it. And for right now, we're just going to simply make something real quick. We want to use the same font. I highly recommend you guys, if you're making any games like this, make sure you stay with one font. Don't be using a bunch of different fonts. I learned that the hard way with Rock and Roll, my first game. I had like 5 different fonts and all different colors and everything like that. Yeah, it was, Sarah can tell you a little bit about that, I think. There we go. Okay, so the reason this looks so faint, there we go. Game over. But one other thing we want to do here, guys, is we want to have this not be... I don't know that we want to go that light, but maybe... There we go. Well. And then we'll go ahead and make a line here. Use the same color. And then we'll come in here and we'll go with a smaller font, like 36. Same font, I mean the same size, right? Press. Space. To play again. And you could put shadows on this or whatever, guys. That's probably what I would highly recommend. So it looks better. But we're just going to come in here. We're going to go like this. And we're going to go a darker one like this. And we're going to say press escape to exit game. I don't like the black. There we go. And then really quickly, let's just go ahead and get a border here for our window. So we don't want that. What we want is we want to come in here like this, I think. Oh, this one. There we go. Looks good, guys. So we're just going to come in here like that. And we're going to, oops, that's Sprite 10. We want to change that name. Right? Game over, right? Object. Game over. I need that sprite. And then we're simply going to have in here, guys, we're going to have a step event. We're going to have some control. If keyboard check pressed. Help if I spell right. VK space. Game. I think it's restart, if I remember right. Yep, game restart. If keyboard space escape. And it's just going to be game end. Like that. So now we just simply need to spawn this object game over when we want the depth of this to be like minus 1,000 as well. We want it to appear over everything, right? So we need to come in here to our controller. And we simply need to say right here, if you create, where is it? Somewhere here in the, not the create event, in the alarm, sorry. We create a new player if there's no player on the screen. If no, but now we're just going to simply come in here and we're going to say, if there's no player on the screen and global lives less than equal to 0, then instance create 800, comma, 450, comma, object, game over. So now we can restart our game. Pretty easy. Hopefully we will, if everything's working. Long time, yes. It's been, what, 5 years now? Something like that. Boom. Okay, let's go ahead and die here. Boom. Boom. We only have 1 life left. We're trying to get this one. Boom, we died. And then, yep. So, one thing you could do here, guys, really quick, so you know how that just popped up? Really easy thing you could do here is in the game over, in the create event here, you could basically come in here and you could basically say image alpha equals 0. You're going to start this being completely clear. And in the step event here, you're just going to go ahead and add to that real quick. Image alpha. Actually, we're going to say if image alpha less than 1, because image alpha is a scale of 0 to 1 on how transparent it is. Image alpha, then image alpha plus equals 0.05. So what that's going to do here, guys, is when we die now, it's going to look a little more professional game over coming up on the screen rather than just popping up immediately. It'll kind of fade in, and you'll see that here in just a minute. So it still fades in really quick, so we could just basically add another 0 in front of that 0.5, and it'll be a lot slower fade in. Really easy. So now the game actually ends. We got the ability to play the game and actually play the game for a high score if you wanted to, right? See how that looks a lot more professional by having that fade in slowly. And then make sure it plays again if we hit space. It does. So we probably want to have some kind of sound effect if we start it over again, like da-da-da-da-da-da or something, right? So I want to go ahead and show you guys the whole reason, again, why I made this game. I spent 3 hours making different videos on this game or whatever. I played this game. This game came out in June of 2020. The developer had filed legal threats against, he had submitted his game to a Christian gaming review website, And then they gave him a 16% review and basically said his game was really bad. And not only that, he was charging $20 for it. And he basically threatened them that if they didn't remove the review, and this is after he sought them out and gave them a key to his game. And then they took his key that he gave them. He said he wanted a review. They didn't review it positively. So he threatened legal action against them if they didn't remove his review, the review they made on his game. And so when all that happened, I decided to go ahead and play the game myself. And I paid $20 for it and saw how bad the game was. With me, it scored a 1% with the game. And the controls are still really, really bad here. But hopefully you guys can see it. Yeah, you guys can see it. So we go into story mode, continue, one player. Okay. So in this game here, it throws you off the screen. It makes you float off the screen. Okay. I think you have to use the arrow keys as well, and the space to shoot. But yeah, if I don't touch anything at all, my player drifts off the screen. And and then you have all these different bullets as well, but you can collide right through the enemies here. Like, the enemies here don't affect you at all. You can also go all the way up and go off the screen. And even though I've set the volume a lot lower, the volume resets itself to loud as fuck every time you play. And so this is a game that still the developer is charging $10 for on Steam, guys, and it's a god-awful mess. I just wanted to go ahead and show you that. You guys can see my re-review of it. I've re-reviewed this game on my YouTube channel in the past days, and it wasn't any better than it was a year ago. This is after all these updates, and the guy basically emailed me again after I gave this game a 1% score last June, and he asked me to re-review the game, saying he's done tons of updates to the game. And when I re-reviewed it, I saw that the game was no better now than it was from what I remember last summer. And so with that, in the comments of that re-review, the guy was basically arguing with me, and I basically said, look, he was basically telling me that I didn't give him any positive feedback, which I did. I did tell him ways he could make the game better. And what loud as fuck is a setting in the game. You should add that to your version. There you go. But yeah, in the comments under that re-review that I did, he was basically saying I didn't give any ways of making the game better. And so basically I said, no, I did tell you plenty of things if you listen on ways you could make your game better. And what I did is I said, listen, I was like, I have GameMaker as well, because I know he made that game that I just played in GameMaker as well. And I said, listen, I said, I have GameMaker as well. I said, I'll show you how I would do a retro space star shooter, much like yours. I said, I'll show you everything I do, every step, all the code, everything in some live streams, as long as you promise me that you will never threaten lawsuits or, copyright strike a review video for not just this game, but any game you ever make. I said, never act like an ass again, basically. Never threaten legal action or copyright strike anybody's review video or whatever. Don't ever pull that shit again. And I said, I'll be more than happy to go ahead and make you some videos showing you how I would make a space shooter game, kind of like what you have. And so he agreed. So he agreed never to be a bad boy again, and that's why I'm here making this video, or making this game and making this, this game over this series of videos. And I'm also helping that maybe my coding and what I'm doing at least help somebody else out, some young indie developer or whatever. Hopefully it'll help somebody else out. And I mean, I'm always going to get better by making games. And so what I'm saying here, guys, is I think that our game here, after just, 3 episodes now, and maybe a little over 3 hours of work, I think we already got our game. See, at least my ship isn't falling below it isn't falling below the screen. We don't have 9,000 bullets coming from every which way. And the controls work a lot better. The stars look a hell of a lot better than the stars do in his game. And, we don't have any music or anything implemented into our game. But I think our game is already a better game. Maybe I'm biased. But you guys can let me know if this game doesn't look better than the $10 you know, game that he's charging now. It started at $20 last summer, but the whatever it's called, Star Bola, whatever. Yeah, I don't remember the name of his game. Something of Nebula. Game built of 9,000 bullets and loud as fuck. So probably what I'll do with this game again, guys, this live stream, is I probably will go in and edit it. The main reason I want to edit it is just so that I can zoom up on the code so you guys can see the code better, or anybody watching the series of videos can kind of see what I'm doing better with the code when I zoom in on it. And I'll basically, you know, cut out some of a little bit of the nonsense, cut out, you know, 5 or 10 minutes of the delays and stuff like that. But we have a game over now. Granted, you'd want to make this look better, but already we have a good base foundation of the game, and I'll be re-uploading my project files up to MediaFire as well. So if you guys have GameMaker or GameMaker 2, you should be able to go ahead and, you know, download my project file for this game and change this game to your heart's content and make this game a complete game. I do hope that, you know, my version of the game as is not uploaded to Steam as an asset flip, basically, though. I definitely don't want to see that. I've seen that happen before, where people have taken like tutorials and uploaded them to Steam as they are, or made the tutorial even worse by fucking with it and then uploading it or whatever. But again, with things like explosions and everything like that, guys, you guys can, you know, the more you do that kind of stuff, the better you're going to get at it. And maybe you can make the explosion as I made it. Maybe you can make it look a lot better just by fucking around with it. You know, by all means, you know, download my project file if you have GameMaker or GameMaker 2, and see what you can do with this game, right? So I not only challenge you to download it and play around with it, learn something, and make a better game, but I challenge you to do that, right? And not only do I challenge you, but I also recommend that you do that. I recommend that you play around with it, especially if you're learning, you know, if you're learning code and stuff like that. You're learning how to code in GameMaker or GameMaker, something you have and you've never really played around with it. You know, a great way to learn is downloading my files here, play around with some of the values, and see what you can create. So, for example, you could come into the player here, right? And you can do things like simply coming into the firing speed. It's in the create event, right? And change the firing speed to, right? Let's change that 15 to a 1. Go in and see what it does, right? So come in, play around with some of these values. And we were talking about a laser. There we go, guys. So from that, you can see that we could just change the sound effect, guys. Look at that. We definitely want to change the sound effect, but look at that. We basically got a whip just by changing one little value in the player fire. So what you could do is you could make a whole new weapon and make it be red instead of blue, and or whatever color, right? And change the sound effect as well, so it doesn't sound so crazy. But you could make like a cool looking little whip effect where you can take out players with your whip. There you go. So you basically got a base idea for a whole new weapon now, right? Just by changing this one variable, right? So go ahead and play around with it, guys. I highly recommend you do it and have fun when you do it. But anyway, guys, we're going to go ahead and leave it there. The next time we do a video, we're going to go ahead and probably try to add some more power-ups or changes weapons, or maybe another enemy that actually shoots back at you rather than just coming down from the bottom. But think of ideas for this game, guys, and let me know either in the comments down below or the next time I stream coding a retro 2D space blaster in GameMaker. All right, guys, thanks so much for being here. Appreciate you guys all. Love you guys all. We'll see you in the next one when we do the next one in the next few days. Peace, everybody. Have a good one. Take care.